Peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, natural divine heirs. Today is August the 29th, 1442 on the ancient moon calendar, 1441 on the ancient sun calendar, and 2021 on the Greco-Roman calendar. All rise and stand. This is a sovereign, ancient, original, indigenous, living, Article 3, Moorish American Al-Moroccan Court Action. I am Sovereign Living Justice, Pauline Denise Ritchie, in capitis diminution nolo, in red ink, in propria persona sui juris, in proprio solo, and in proprio corredes. We are the original indigenous, sovereign, ancient, Al-Moroccan, Moorish American ascendants of the great pharaohs of Kemet and of the ancient Moabites and Canaanites. Our full faith, trust, allegiance, credit, and energy are hereby vested in ourselves and in each other, for we are the people who are the original indigenous, natural divine, de jure Moorish National Republic Federal Government, the Moorish American Consulate, and the Moorish American Consular Court, Islam. So, let's just see. Let me make sure. Okay. All right. And we're also, I'm going to go ahead and mute the chat just for a moment so that we can allow those who are coming in to come in and get started. Okay. All right. So hopefully everyone can hear. Let's get into what we're going to be talking about at this point. So I first wanted to show you a photo that I saw online that I found to be very interesting for a number of reasons. But this photo that's on the screen, it's from the 1893 Chicago World's Fair. It's a Moorish palace, okay? And the site that this came from, I'll go ahead and put the link to that site in the chat so that you can look at it. It's a great site. They're actually telling the truth on the site. I think the more that we speak the truth, the more that the truth will come out. So I wanted to point out in this photo, though, something that I think is important for us to note. We've been talking about the different jurisdictions and the tone of those jurisdictions. For example, the red jurisdiction is the land jurisdiction, that's us. The blue jurisdiction is the sea jurisdiction, which is a servant of ours. That's still ours. The sea is still ours. All water is ours. And then there's the grave jurisdiction, the dead jurisdiction, which is black. And I noticed in this photo that they have Moorish Palace in all capital letters and black ink. And it's not a color photo, but it is a black and white photo. But my question, just something for us to think about is, how is it that we went from that in 1893, which was not that long ago, to where we are now? We were in our greatness. And how did we go? And there are other photos on that website that I'm going to put in the chat. I'll put it in the chat when we open the chat back up. But how is it that we went from that to not knowing who we are. That happened because of capitalism. That's how we ended up. And when I say capitalism, I'm talking black capitalism, because that's not the only capitalism. There's other capitalism. There's red capitalism, which is what we do. There's blue capitalism, where the letters are blue. That's the C capitalism, but it's still subject to us, and it is living, a living subject capitalism. And then there's the black capitalism, which is the dead capitalism that we're out from under now. But that's the reason why, is because we not only did the literature change, but we gave outward appearance that we did not know that we should not be using black ink in capital letters. So outwardly, whenever we put up businesses and things like that, the signage changed, etc., then everyone knew that we did not know who we were. And everything started to change. And this is 1893, which is after 1871. So the changes were happening before 1893. They just manifested more after 1871. And that's why 1871 happened, because we were using dead language. So here's another, just a little something here that's on that same site, and it talks about the Algerian Theater in downtown Chicago. It says the Algerian and Tunisian village in which the theater was the chief attraction was situated near the center of the midway places and adjoining the street in Cairo. So this is where the original Cairo is, on this land and not over there. The original one is here. And I'm not saying that it's not over there because the land was adjoined. And it says the frontage, as may be seen in the illustration, was not remarkably pretentious. Okay, but the main building inside had a Moorish dome with towers and minarets, and its exterior was covered with the rich hued colors, etc. And you can go look this up on the website when I put the link in the chat, and also the link will be under this video on YouTube as well, so you can go and look at the photos there. So I just wanted to point that out again. We're talking about jurisdiction. We are the government on our land. We vote by our actions. Red is the land jurisdiction, blue is the sea jurisdiction, and black is the grave jurisdiction, i.e. dead jurisdiction. And then purple is when we tell our subjects, you are now a royal subject. In other words, we've given you a specific job or task to do. And when we give them a specific job or task to do, then we speak to them in purple to give them our command. Okay? So it says here, number 2, let's go into what we're going to be the crux of our matter today. The Holy Prophet told the Moors, children, you are at home, and the European is 3,000 miles from home, and he is going to have to take some water. And that was what he said at, it is purported that he said that at the Detroit Nishigama temple. And that comes from the prophet's hadith. The reason we're bringing that up is, again, we want to ensure that we are clear that the subjects know who they are with the things we're going to show you here shortly. We're going to prove to you that they know that they are in the water, the sea jurisdiction. They know that they are subject to the Moors. They know this already. And as we continue standing, they are taking their place, as they should. Okay? So the first thing we want to discuss here is I wanted to read Hadith number 52, which is on the same link of the page that of the Hadith of the Prophet's Hadith that it is stated that he said. Sister M. Peyton Day of Temple 4 and 25, and Brother J. Davis, and I believe this is GG. I'm not sure what that stands for. Of Michigan, heard the Holy Prophet ask the Moors in Detroit, Michigan, how would you like to have your own mayor and chief of police? And then this part that's in parentheses is not what the prophet said. But I put there, in this day and age, Moors will be allodially incorporating their own cities in the United States, and that's the United States in red, and all lowercase letters, which is the land. Each city has its own mayor and police chief. How do we bring the prophet's word into manifestation? Because that's our job. Because this whole land is supposed to be that. So let's talk about how we do that. Okay. So to help us further understand how we do that, the prophet also said, it is stated that he said, you who doubt whether I, the prophet, and my principles are right for the redemption of my people, go to those that know law in the city hall and among the officials in your government and ask them under an intelligent tone, and they will be glad to render you a favorable reply, for they are glad to see me bring you out of darkness into light. This is supposedly the words of the prophet. Now, we know that the foreign modern European United States Corporation Company is not our government. We know that. They are subjects. Who is the government? We are the government. Let's prove that they know that. I did a little digging, and I went on to Wikipedia. And we know Wikipedia has been, hypothecated, but you know what? They're actually getting a little bit better at putting things in their proper status and correcting the language. So this is a photo of a subject by the name of J. Inslee. Okay. Wikipedia has him listed here as 23rd governor of Washington. And it does not say the 23rd governor of the state of Washington, because the state of Washington is a corporation. And then it further describes him and what's really going on. It says that he is an incumbent in an assumed office, and assumed office is in black. And then we see here further that he has autographed, and this was his autograph was on Wikipedia in blue. Okay, which is something that I had not seen before. I've never seen anyone's autograph at Wikipedia, but they're updating and changing as we stand. Okay. So now, and it has one capital letter at the beginning and the rest lowercase letters. That's in capital diminution minima in blue. That's them. That's what we said on the public record. So now I went there and I said, okay, let me look up the word incumbent and look up the word assumed, and let's just see what they're really saying about this office, and why is it an assumed office, and why is he listed as an incumbent in an assumed office. So I looked up the word assume. And when I looked up the word assume, this is what I found. Assume. Wait, let's go up a little further to the noun. Okay, this is actually a verb transitive. Assumed, to take up, to claim. And then let's go to number 1, to take or put on the appearance, form, or role of. So that sounds to me like someone is making it look like it's something that it's not. Number 2, to take what is not just, to usurp, to arrogate, to seize unjustly. Number 3, to take for granted or without proof. So to take it without proof that they're supposed to be there. To suppose as a fact. To assume a principle in reasoning. Number 4, to appropriate or take to oneself. And appropriate is a financial term. To undertake. It says to assume, and they're using this as an example, such as to assume the debts of another. Number 5, to pretend to have, to feign. And then you see some synonyms. It says appropriate, arrogate, affect, pretend, usurp, claim, feign. Assume. To be pretentious or presumptuous. To claim more than is due. And then I kept going and looking at assume in its various forms. Assumed, fictitious, pretended. How many of you Moors have had someone say to you that what you're thinking and saying and doing is fictitious? How many of us have had that said to us that that's fictitious? They'll take a tag and say that's fictitious. So who's really fictitious here? Who's really fictitious? They're admitting that they're fictitious. So I went down also to the word assumpted, because I've seen that word on some Moors documents, assumpted, because that's a word that the quote-unquote sovereign, the ones that were doing business as sovereign citizens, which does not exist, they put that on their documents. Assumpted, to assume, to undertake. And then it says in law, a promise or undertaking not under seal. So we could actually use that term when we're discussing the modern Europeans who had assumed these offices and assumed the position. The positions belong to the Moors. We've already put that on the public record, and now we see that there's been corrections in what they say. But they say it only after we say it. As we state the truth, out comes the truth. Okay? Then I looked up incumbent. And let me make this a little bit bigger so we can see. Incumbent. I looked up the word in its different forms, and I looked at incumbency. It's the quality or condition of being incumbent. Something incumbent, specifically a duty or obligation, an overlying weight or mass. Number 3, the holding and administering of a position. Holding and administering of a position. That means you're not that. He's not a governor. He's holding and administering. He was holding and administering a position previously. It says, especially the holding of a church benefice. And when I looked up the word benefice, benefice is someone that is benefiting from something that they're holding. It's not theirs, they're just benefiting from it, as opposed to the actual beneficiary. And then the word incumbent is here. And the Latin is incumbens. It says encumber, to lay oneself upon, recline or rest upon, to lie down. So when someone says they're an incumbent, that means that they're not standing as that. They're lying down as that. Okay? And they're lying down on something else. They're lying over something, because we always talk about the overlay, the corporate overlay that was laid on top of our vast estate. It's a corporate, commercial, black capitalist overlay that was previously laid over our estate, and we had to listen to the ancestor energy, search the law, and find out how to remove this corporate black covering that had everyone thinking we're black. It actually had us thinking we're black. They've always known we're not black. But that covering was done by incumbents. And they're admitting that. They can read in the dictionary as well. Incumbents. Resting, number 3, resting upon as duty or obligation. Impose or impose. Impose means positioned in a way that makes it look like, but you've imposed it over someone or something by your own doing, as opposed to their consent. But we did consent because we did not pass down this information that we're getting. It says here, number 5, impending or imminent, as a synonym, pressing, binding, and we talk about binding when we cast our spells, that whatsoever we bind on earth is bound in heaven, whatsoever we loose on earth is loosed in heaven. And the reason we use that specific spell is to fix and to properly rebut what's been done by the incumbent. It says here coercive. Yes, coercive. We talk about threat, duress, and coercion. Okay? But threat, duress, and coercion is not even an excuse. There's no excuse. Devolving. It says urgent, devolving, obligatory. Urgent is here because whenever we went to sleep on these positions, there was some urgency that happened that made the incumbents do what they did. Okay, and we'll talk about that also briefly in this sharing session. Incumbent, the person who is in present possession of a benefice or of any office. They're in possession of it. It's not theirs. They're just in possession of it. And then I looked further and saw that encumber is the same as encumber. The same as incumbent. So when they talk about being the incumbent, they're also talking about this word incumbent as well, and encumber. Okay? And then incumbition, right here, the act of sitting or lying in close contact. That is important. They had to get really close to us in order to pull this off and have everyone believe it. So then I looked up the word encumber here with an E. Encumber with an E. And remember, we're still talking about the incumbent. Encumber, to hold back the motion or action of, as with a burden, to hinder or hamper. So by them being in that, supposed in that office, or previously making it look like they're in that office, that was hampering and hindering the true governors. And governor, again, and our grand chief said this a couple of weeks back, governor and they are the same. The governor and the they, the B-E-Y, which is who we are the same. Number 3 says to burden, to load or weigh down, as with claims or debts, etc. That means that debts were put on to someone who was supposed to be in that office but wasn't there by the incumbent. The incumbent was saying, y'all got to pay for all of this since you're not here and we're here, you got to pay for all of this. That is what we have been doing this whole time in terms of the way we've been treated. So it's been done by the incumbent, the same ones that many turn right around and go to in their corporate status and ask them for help when they haven't put them back in subject status properly. They need to be put in subject status properly so that they stay on the public record, yes, I'm a subject of the Moors, which is what they're saying now. But that's because many Moors have done liens and court actions and done the due diligence to get these subjects, get that corporate covering off of them so that they can tell the policy enforcers, hold it, they're not who you are pretending they are. They know who they are. So let's look at encumber a little further. Because again, encumber and incumbent, those are financial terms. Those are terms that have to do with debt or money. And someone has to be the debtor and someone has to be the one who has the money. Who is it that's the debtor and who is it that has the money? How does that work? When we thought that we were citizens under incumbents, then we were assuming and pretending to be debtors. And they were presuming and assuming to be the one with the money. But we know they didn't have money, they had fiat. We know that. Everyone knows that. And the only reason their fiat worked is because we said we're going to use that. But now that we're saying no, and we're in transition, some more are still using fiat, okay. But it's not going to be there after a while. So that's why this is important for us to go ahead, get ahead of the curve, and go ahead and get it done. And start using our own money, real money, among each other, which that has already started in ways that I didn't think it would grow this quickly, but my emails say it has grown very quickly. So encumbrance, in a manner to impede. Can you hear me? Just one moment. Okay, can you hear me? Okay. Now remember, encumbrance means to impede. And so those who have been impeding, have you heard the term obstruction of justice? Okay, justice. Who is justice? We are justice. Now, we can't get mad at them for what they did. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Okay. I got booted out, but I'm back. So when we talk about encumbrance and encumbering, okay, obstruction of justice, that is a term that has been used, and that's talking about us. Okay, when they say obstruction of justice, they're saying an obstruction without justice, because when they use the term of, it means without. When we use the term of, it means that's from us, or, you know, of is a part of. Okay. Encumbrance. Now let's look at this, because this is very important, because again, we talk about liens and all of that all the time. And some wanted to fight us a little bit on that lien, and not fight us, but resist the lien process. But guess what what the incumbents have been doing? Look at number 2. In law, a lien or claim on an estate. A legal claim on an estate for the discharge of which the estate is liable. Okay, again, Moors have no debt. That's number 1. Because everything that they did, they were doing it in black ink and capital letters. So that's not us. They created a bunch of debt in black ink and capital letters. That's why we don't use that, because we don't have any debt. And the incumbents have been pushing all of that on the heirs, and the heirs, not knowing, but ignorance of the law is no excuse. Number 3 is particularly important for us because it talks about kinship and bloodline, okay? Number 3, we're not family, because family means servant, but it says a family charge, a dependent, particularly a child or children. If they're saying that they are the incumbents, they are admitting to being children of the Most High. And who is the Most High? The Moors. Everyone, all Moors, by bloodline and birth rate, are the most high. And they are the children, and they're admitting that they're the children. Their children sitting in offices, it's almost like we walked out of our office and left the children there. That is a wrap. Thankfully, the ancestors gave us the wherewithal to remember to put documents on the public record that state that we are the sovereign governors and the sovereign presidents and the sovereign postmasters general and the sovereign law enforcement, the sovereign everything. We had to put that on the public record because that is who we really are. So now that we know that children were holding space, so to speak, let's look a little further. And here again it says also spelled encumbrance. In other words, it's also, they're relating those two words together. Incumbent is a child. That's what an incumbent is. It's a child. A child who's putting debt on other folks, on actually other children, really. Because if we think that we're any name in black ink and capital letters, that's not mature overstanding. So they can't put their debt off on us, but they can spread it around onto those black names in capital letters and black ink. And that's what they've been doing. And every time we stepped up and thought we were that, they said, okay, shove some more debt at them, incumbent. So now I did a little more digging and went on, and this is some more information about, and we'll just use this particular subject. J. Inslee, listed as incumbent. We'll just use him in our in this sharing session. I'm sure he won't mind. So not that there's a choice. So J. Inslee, it says here that he's an incumbent in an assumed office. And then if you look at the colors that they're using here, look at the colors, Ayers. Please look at the colors of this that we're looking at. Okay? Because they know that it's not, you know, that they're telling the truth here. They're saying that the status of this right here, they're saying that head of state and head of government is not the same as status here. That's what they're saying. They're saying that if you use black ink in capital letters, that you're not, that this head of state and head of government is not your status. And even to say head of state and head of government is not the state or the government. It is the head without the state and the head without the government, because it's not in red. We're the state and we're the government. And then it says res ident in blue. Now, it's saying here inaugural holder, Elijah P. Ferry. Inaugural holder. Well, I said, okay, that's another admission right there, because I knew from being in this territory that the one who preceded J. Inslee in assuming that office was not Elijah P. Ferry. So the name sounded familiar from previous research, so I went through and looked at previous research. Okay, and I found, first off, look at this formation date. It's November 11th, 1889. Okay, formation of November 11th, 1889. When I looked up Elijah P. Ferry, he is where the changes were taking place here. Okay? Elijah P. Ferry, they have him listed here as, right here, former governor of Washington. Not the state of Washington, but the former governor of Washington. Reading further, it says Elijah Pierre Ferry was the first governor, and that's governor with a capital G, so we know that's not real either, governor of the U.S. state of Washington, which is different from Washington. It says Ferry was a Republican lawyer and not a lawyer. He's a lawyer who had twice been governor of Washington Territory, the only one to serve 2 terms. So now you're talking about 3 different places, so to speak. 2 of them exist only on paper, and then Washington Territory, when you put it in red and all lowercase letters, that's us. Now, the reason that these 3 places exist in one biography is because 1871 happened. He was born August 9th, 1825, and it says he died October 14th, 1895. So between this time of his political career, political means that it's not the land or anything, it's politics. 1871 happened. And that's why there were changes. But if you look even further, now remember, it has him listed as Elijah Ferry, first governor of the U.S. state of Washington. That means that something changed. That means he became the quote-unquote governor of the U.S. corporation, state of Washington Corporation, okay, in 1871. And then before that, previous office was, which is different, and they're making it clear that this is different, governor of Washington. Okay? That was the previous office. So the inaugural holder, this was the last time anything lawful was done. Was probably 1860, I would say 1860, because we know that they adjourned sine die 1861. So they're telling you here that there are some things that are not lawful that happen. Open admission. We just have to know how to read. So let's look at another example of this. And I was doing a little research to send some documents and do some things with regard to some of the Moors that are in a different territory. And this came up. It says here that someone with a name in black ink with a capital E, Evangelides, has assumed an office of Sheriff of Worcester County, Massachusetts. That's an assumed office. That means that that's not the real sheriff. Not the real sheriff. Not the real sheriff at all. And they know that. They're aware of that. They're putting it right here on the record. They're aware of that. Look here. Nationality, American. You see that, Morris? That means that, now, first of all, again, Morris, the black ink, the capital letters. That's why they're making that claim. They didn't put that in blue. They made sure that it was in black. They didn't run out of black ink either. Let's get that straight. That when they say things like this, they put it in black ink because they know if you put it in black ink, then it's not the Moors. If you put one capital letter and black ink, it's not the Moors. It's not the real American, the living American. They're telling you right there. They didn't put it in blue, like Jay Inslee's signature. So that means they know their colors. Political party Republican. So that means that this is all political speak. This is not the land. This is not a sovereign jurisdiction. It's political. And political and government are two different things also. When you govern, your political status is going to be evident. But you got to actually be governing in order for it to be evident. You can't just state a political status on the public record and not be doing the governing. But governing is as simple as stating your nationality in writing on the public record. That's the beginning of true government. That's the first step in governing this vast estate, putting your nationality on the public record. Okay? So then I looked a little further at what was being said here, over here on the right of the screen. They're saying that an informal title, informal, what does that mean? That means that it's just form of the title. It's not the real true title. Okay, and even if they're saying that the real blue or the real true title is something other than that, if it's in blue, that's not even the real title where we're concerned. We already know what the real title is. It's the Bey. The Beys are the governors. The L's, the Al's, the Ali's, the governors. It says here the formal title is His Excellency. And that's got a capital E and a capital H, which means that that is not what that is. And that is not what you call that one right there. But see, when they say His Excellency, remember Moors, then they're subject to the Moors. That's what they are when they're subject to us and in their proper status. That's what they become under eminence. Eminence is us. Eminence is, you know how they say your eminence? That's the Moors. Lord and God in all lowercase letters in red, that's the Moors. And underneath the Moors is the eminence, is the excellency and all of that, and those royal titles. But they only get a royal title if we give it to them. And they only get a royal title when they're working for us in said capacity. That's why they have that here. The term length is 4 years with no term limit. What does that mean? If this office doesn't have any term limit, that means that we're still the governors. That means that we're still the Beys from time immemorial. That means we never stopped governing. We just went to sleep. And only some of us went to sleep, not all of us. All the ones on this call went to sleep, including myself. We went to sleep. So now the inaugural holder. The inaugural holder, they say, is John Hancock. So I'm thinking, okay, let's just do a little bit on John Hancock and see the inaugural holder. Now, again, inaugural holder is someone who was inaugurated to hold the space until the actual governor showed up. They're still, they were previously holding it. I can hold your wallet or your purse, but that doesn't make it mine. So I looked up John Hancock, and we all know what that's all about. Here is John Hancock and a presumed photo of John Hancock. And John Hancock, I will tell you, this photo of him indicates that there's someone's pointing to the Moors here with this hairdo. Someone's pointing to the Moors, but he may not be a Moor, but someone's pointing to the Moors. But it doesn't say assumed. It says in office, and that's in black and all lowercase letters. It says in office, not assumed. Look at the date. 1787. Does that date sound anywhere near familiar? Yes, it does. 1786, the Treaty of Peace and Friendship. 1786 and 1836. So we told him, you hold that one as a subject of the Moors, and do as commanded while you're holding it. And what did he do? He signed in capitis diminutio minima, which is the first letter capitalized and the rest of the letters lowercase. We know that everyone, when they talk about a signature, they talk about put your John Hancock here. Why do they say that? Why do they say that? Because he was the first one to start signing in black. He started that. He started that. That's why. So we don't have a John Hancock. We're the babes. We have an autograph, a sovereign autograph. So doing a little bit more study on this subject, what is this telling us? What is our prophet saying here? When he says, go to the officials in your government, that means our prophet saw some Moors in their governing somewhere, because he would have never sent us to a corporation. He talked about nationality. He said nationality was ordered today, so he would never send us to a corporation. He was talking about the Moors who know law. That means that we were in City Hall, because that's what it says. So when Moors would go to City Hall, they would see other Moors in turbans and fezes governing. What does this mean for the red government? The red government, in red and all lowercase letters. What does that mean for us? That means that, and many Moors remember this, when the Moorish government had office space in the building, and that was after the fall the office space came. Because before we had the whole building. And before that, these Capitol buildings that we see were actually where we lived, so to speak. Those were our domiciles. Those were our domiciles. I meant to put the photo in here that proves that, because there's a photo that Empress Kenya, I'm so grateful for her and her research. Empress Kenya sent me a photo the other day of
the University of Tampa, where they have a sign that says that, and I'm paraphrasing the sign. In fact, let me just go ahead and read what she sent me because I have it right here. But I'll post it. I'll post a link to it under this video. But she found a sign. It's green. The sign is in green and gold. And it says, the sign says Tampa Bay Hotel. And it's on the University of Tampa's grounds, Tampa grounds. It says Henry B. Plant built this ornate Moorish structure at a cost of $3 million. Opened in 1891, which we know that it was there way before then. It became the social and cultural center of early Tampa. During the Spanish-American War, it was headquarters for the troops going to Cuba and housed such visitors as Colonel Theodore Roosevelt, Clara Barton, Richard Harding Davis, and General Nelson Miles. Purchased by the city of Tampa in 1905, it has served as the main building of the University of Tampa since 1933. So even the colleges, those universities, when you see Yale University, we domiciled there. Those were our domiciles. And we studied together, and that's why those places like Harvard and Princeton and Yale, they actually have all the books and a lot of the history and all of that. So when you go there, you'll see things that the Library of Congress didn't have room for, that we left there when we decided to go to sleep. Harvard, Princeton, Yale, Brown, Georgetown, UCLA, University of California, LA, UC Berkeley. Go to their libraries. Go to any library in anywhere on any campus, university campus. Pick the oldest university that's in your territory and go there. Or pick the biggest university, because see, the universities got bigger and bigger where the occupiers were concerned, or the incumbents were concerned. Let me call them incumbents. Where they were concerned, they got bigger because our stuff was there and they just capitalized everything they saw. They didn't move it, they didn't change it because they can't touch our estate. All they did was do an overlay and laid a capitalistic, colonistic, commercial overlay on top of everything that's ours. Everything that's ours is still there, still here, still everywhere. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and open up both the chat and the floor for if you have any comments or anything that you have seen in your territory that tells you that the Moors are here. Because I've seen, there's actually very few things that I see in this territory that say otherwise. In fact, none of it says otherwise. All of it says we were always here. Because the structures that are here now, those structures are temporary structures built by the incumbents. Those are temporary structures. Okay. Okay, I'm seeing a few things in the chat as well, Islam. Let me also open up the floor and I'll put it on mute. You can unmute by *6, okay? if you have any questions or comments or anything that you have seen in your territory.
Where's all these original documents that you're talking about, Pauline? You fucking liar. Where's all the original?
Islam.
Islam interest. So I was going to say facts regarding those schools with the information, and sometimes you have to go in with gloves and go in a private room and take those documents. And you know, we recorded a lot of things from the Dutch, and it's maybe the only book in the country. You know, and they send it from school to school, like a little circuit. And so, yeah, a lot of that stuff is hidden right here in our territories. All we have to do is just go on and you know, sign up for a night class, and you'll have access to all of that stuff with your library card or something like that. Islam.
Yes, Islam. 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 We have seen in this territory even our structures, our ancient structures that were buried in the mud flood. If you want to see some structures, do some research on the mud flood and see that they have photos of everything before the floods ever came. Okay. And the thing that the hybrid mentioned a little while ago about original documents, Harvard, Yale, and I'm speaking to the Moors. I'm not speaking to any I'm not speaking to the hybrid. Not that one, particular one. But the modern Europeans know where all of the documents are. Okay. In fact, any documents that we've been shown were produced specifically by them. When I say by them, I mean in the modern European education system, those POW systems, that information came from them, and it's actually upside down information. And all we have to do is know how to read it.
Like everything else you say, it's bullshit and you have no proof.
That's know how to read it, and then go to Harvard and Yale and any of the universities that are in your territory, and you will see everything that we're saying. And again,
Islam.
The documents are there.
Islam.
They've been there the whole time. Islam nobility.
Islam, Sister Lane, I'm Justice Frank L. And I pulled up in City Hall is a Moorish mosque. And Hiram Grave is there and everything, the whole 9 yards. It's right there.
Yes.
Florida is the capital, Capitonia for us. All right, our peace.
Islam. You know, we actually had 7 capitals. We had 7 because there's so many of us and we govern the whole earth. We still govern the whole earth. But every capital was a capital. First, every capital city was the capital for the Moors that were in that territory. We all agreed that, okay, this is where we're going to go when we have government things to do among each other. This is where we will meet.
If the documents are all there, why don't you ever show proof?
That's what we said about where we were going. That's what the capitals are about. Is we said we would do that. Everybody meet at, you know, whatever the capital of Virginia territory is, or whatever the capital of, you know, Philadelphia's territory is, etc. You know, we said we will meet there as a territory of nationals and nations together. We'll meet there when we have government things we need to do. So the proof of who we are is everywhere. It's everywhere. And all we have to do is keep putting things together and in our, you know, in our research and knowing that everything is connected. Everything is connected. Okay. Now, what does that mean for us as Moors? Yes, we do need to go ahead, and this is the way the strategy was given to me by the ancestors as I've been thinking about this process and how we do this. So we've already, fortunately, put the documents on the public record. All of us have, all who have done it, have already put documents on the public record saying they're the governor of their territory. So we are doing something that looks like assuming an office, but it's not assuming we're the real one. Okay? It looks like we're saying, okay, we're the governor, we're the president, we're all of that. And when I say we, I mean all of us. We are right now in a state that I would, and correct me, Moors, if you feel otherwise about this, but we are in a provisional government place because we have not had nationwide elections. Okay? We've not had nationwide elections. So, yes, we're governing already. Okay? Elections is just one very small part of the whole governing process. Okay? The way that we need to, this is what I'm seeing as a way, it's not the only way because I'm sure you will come up with other ways too, but a way for us to do this is that the Moors in each one of the territory, for example, this is Washington territory, there's Oregon territory, there's Khalifa territory, there's Virginia territory, and Pennsylvania territory, etc. The way for us as government and as a nation to move forth is we've already put it on the public record that we're governing, that we're the governors, but we do need to have territorial elections. Territorial elections. And we have some time to do this. We have some time to get this all together. In fact, by the time 2024 gets here, we will have gotten this whole process of voting and everything and proper identification of everyone down pat. Okay? We can look at what the hybrids did and what they went through and see that, okay, proper IDs need to be had by all Moors in red and all lowercase letters. Now, let me tell you why red and all lowercase letters is so important as we move forward. It's important because as we move back into the buildings and the structures that are ours already, there's going to be correspondence coming in from those in our nation, needing assistance of some kind or whatever the case may be. The other, the incumbents, okay, they're going to have things coming in too from their citizens, because this is a republic we're talking about here. The things that come in for us, they will automatically know that it's ours because it's going to come in red. And so when it says governor, whoever the governor is in that, whoever the Moorish governor is, their documents are going to come in red. It's going to say governor in red. And they will automatically know that goes to the real governor. The same thing with us as we move into the courthouses, etc. They will know what's coming for us, and we will know what's for us, because it'll be in red and all lowercase letters. Okay? And if there's any question about it, and it doesn't come in red, then we can look at the language and see that the language, is language that is our language. Okay? If they're using terms like Moors and Moorish, we know it's for us. But everyone, as many of us as possible, and I'm grateful that many of us have already gotten the erudition piece of red ink and lowercase letters, all lowercase letters. Because again, as we move forth, there needs not be any confusion when they're talking about when things come through and things come on over our desk. You know, as we're governing, there need not be any confusion about what that looks like. Okay, our documents don't need to look like their documents. They need to look like our documents. They need to be on government letterhead, etc. Okay, so right now, let's start gathering together Moors and looking at, and this is what we're doing now. We can decide here what our government, how our government is going to move forth in each of the territories. And listen, if you're the only Moor in the territory, you're it. you're the governor. But chances are you're not the only one in the territory. It's just the rest of them are asleep. And until they wake up and see that they have a governor, and see that they have their own court, and see that they have their own everything, that's what we're preparing for. Okay?
Are you going to take over First Avenue on the 6th of September, Pauline?
So this is the way that we can move forth, is let's start talking about how we want our elections to go in the territory. And we'll talk about that as a whole. And then the Moors in the territory. And listen, this is not about quote unquote fighting with other Moorish governments. We're not doing that. We're talking about the governors for our government. The Moorish National Republic Federal Government, the de jure Moorish National Republic Federal Government. We're not in any competition with any other Moorish governments, because we honor them as well. But we need to go ahead and move forward so that we can get the resources that we need as the beneficiaries and not the benefice. Okay, because we already showed you where they're benefiting from those offices, not as the beneficiaries of the vast estate that is ours. And as we move in this direction, again, we're already governing. Let's get that straight. We're already the governors. That's a given. But we want to further unify. Okay, so let's now just start talking about it. The elections that will happen first will be Senate and legislature, congressional elections. Then we'll have, the governor's elections. We can have those whenever we're ready, because again, we're already governing, all of us. We've already put the documents on the public record and everything for our government. And we're not separating ourselves from the other Moors and the other Moorish governments. We're not doing that. What we're doing, because we're unified with them. Now, let's get that straight. And just for the record, I'll put this out there. I want to send a shout out to Justice Lamont Maurice L., whom I spoke with on the phone in the last 24 hours. And just showed support for him and all the work that he's doing. We also want to call out and support and give our support here on the public record for the Ouachita government and nation. We want to do the same and right here on the public record for the Gullah Geechee government and nation. We want to do the same for the United Res Publica government and nation. We are one. And any other government, the more science temples, the de jure ones, yes, all day, every day.
Maniac,
that's,
nuttier than hell.
That's, we are one with them as well. Okay? So we're one with all de jure governments, okay, and by bloodline and birthright, okay. So, having said that, we're doing what we're doing for the de jure Moorish National Republic federal government because there's some movements that we need to make. We've put some things on the public record competently. We see that they're doing exactly what we tell them to do, and not pretending to be something that they're not. Okay, so let us move forward on these next calls. Other subjects will come up, and we will address the other subjects even as you declare. Whatever you declare as the subject that we talk about, let's talk about them. You know, because this is about all of us. And then for those who see this video on YouTube, if you have subjects that you want this government to discuss, please put it in the comments under the video on YouTube and on Facebook and other social media. Wherever this video shows at, put in the comments any subjects that you want us to talk about and to address. Even if we've addressed them previously, we will further expand on them, because that's what government does. So doesn't matter how controversial it might seem, let's talk about it. We need to talk about it because it's all a part of our nation. And I'll say this too, any Moors who have consented to step away and say, oh, I'm not a part of that, I'm not a part of that. By your consent, you're not a part of what it is in your mind that you feel is a government or is separate or is us. But by bloodline and birthright, it's by default. You're a part of it. By default. Okay? And that's just the way our bloodline works. Just like by default. And it's not even by default, it's by our sovereign consent. We're a part of everything that our ancestors put in place. Everything that the Prophet Noble Drew Ali put in place. Everything that, you know, has been put in place by our teachers up to this point, who get all the credit in the world for the amazing work that they've done. Grand Sheikh Taj Tariq Bey, R.D. Bey Publications, and Clock of Destiny, and just on and on and on. We don't, we honor all of the work that's being done by all Moorish governments, nations, and Moors, period. So let's begin getting the process together. And the process does not have to be difficult or tedious or encumbering. Voting for governors in our territories is going to be it's almost as simple as the way we vote on this call, where we say, okay, this is the vote that we're having, state your appellation and your vote. Except we're a court of record, so everything that we do, we record it, either in writing or the way we record these calls and put them on the public record, because once we put it out there, it's out there for good, it's out there forever. But then we note for the record that this is the will of the people. Okay. So if there are only 3 Moors that you know of in your territory, then make contact of some kind with those 3 Moors and say, hey, we got to get ready for an election. Okay. However, one thing I know about our ancestors is when they tell us to do something, they want us to do it. And then if you build it, they will come. So this first election of governors in the territories, it may not be this big, grandiose, grand thing, perceptively based on what we thought grandiose and grand looks like, but we need to do it. We are provisionally governing already. And by provisionally, we're providing the provision by using the larium and governing with the affidavits and all that we're doing. And know that in order for you to declare that you're wanting to run for governor in your territory, know that you don't have to be perfect, because not, you know, we're coming out of colonialism and capitalism. So everyone is eligible to be a part of this that we're doing. Okay, everyone is eligible, and eligible just means you have the bloodline and birthright. Okay, but preferably Moors who are doing the study and you know, participating in governing by doing liens and affidavits and writs and all of that. If you haven't done any liens and any court actions, because that's a part of the job. We just saw in the definition of incumbent that they do liens, they lien, and they make claims, they claim things. We have to know how to do that. And I will say this, Morris, those who have a track record or you've seen their stuff on the public record, consider them. Go to Moorish American Consulate Public Records page and look and see who's got liens and court actions, at least one of each. Even if it's just on the straw, on that black thing. And this is not going to be, the energy that we're going into this with is divine energy. It's divine movement. Because that's what this is. It is a Moorish divine and national movement of the whole earth. We're moving the earth by what we're doing, is what that's saying. And we have that at the top of all of our documents. So let's move the earth. Let's move the world. So it can be even, you know, again, 2 or 3 Moors in your territory. Just decide, choose who among the 3 of you have a vote, and say, okay, because and know that the government piece, the governor piece, there's also going to need to be a secretary for state. The secretary for state is the custodian of abandoned property, or a property that was presumed to be abandoned, because our property is not abandoned. Okay, so there's room for everyone here. Every office that you see the incumbent children that were previously occupying, we will have the same offices. Now, where does the imperial divan come in at? Each one of the offices that we have has also an additional title to that office. So they call it a governor. We know that it's governor. That is correct in red in all lowercase letters. It's also bey in red in all lowercase letters. It's also it's equivalent with the imperial divan. So we're going all the way back to what our ancestors did. We're taking it right where it is and taking it all the way back to what our ancestors did. So yes, we are the imperial divan. It's not going anywhere. It's going to be here because we're it. So if there are any other Moorish nations and governments who want to participate in this with us, because see, for example, let me just give you an example. In this territory, if there are Washita Moors in this territory, we can still come together and choose one governor, and the governor can be from any of the governments. Okay? Any of the governments. The Moorish National Republic federal government is just calling this process forth on the public record in red and all lowercase letters, because we know that that's what's competent to do. That we can't, that it must be done a particular way in order for it to remain de jure. And so we're calling it forth, but get with the Moors, and I would say that the territories that have judiciary members and consular post heads, you all can be the coordinators for the process, okay, in your territories. Because here's the thing, we have to get this process going, okay? We have to get it going. It has to be done the way that our ancestors set it up, okay? So we do want to, and again, if there are Moors in your territory who choose not to participate, that's okay. Those who do choose to participate, awesome. Okay, and if there's three of you, you can agree that one be the governor, one be the secretary for state, and one be the lawyer general, the law god general, which is the equivalent of the attorney general, because the three are going to be working together to get the property that the Moors need everywhere. And another thing that we're looking at, and the reason why this has to be in place, is because those offices that the incumbents were previously occupying, we're going to be working, those offices are subject to us. And so the office of Secretary for State that we speak to in red and all lowercase letters, they will be ensuring that properties are handled properly in terms of making sure policy enforcers are aware of their duties and responsibilities to the Moors, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, but we need to do this process on the public record. And again, we've already claimed that's why you see them getting in alignment, because we're already the governors. We're already the presidents. All Moors are the governors. All Moors are the presidents. We just need to now agree among each other who is, which Moor in the territory is going to be the presentment, okay, be the governor, who knows what the duties and responsibilities of the governor is, which is to connect with the other states. And when I say states, I mean Moorish states. I'm not talking about any corpses at all. And see, those that are in these positions will need to know that we don't need to be doing anything with regard to corporations. We're talking about resources because we've removed that corporate covering. Okay? So, let's start moving in that direction, and then what we'll do is we'll have meetings of the governors here on this platform or the platform of our choosing, and then we'll begin moving forth on moving into the spaces that we need to be doing that from. Okay. The more that you are looking at to be governors in the territories, just a suggestion, Moors, please make sure that they're peaceful Moors, that they know that this is about peace and not war, and that they're not trying to force their will on other people. Okay? Because the hybrid the modern Europeans know already what we're doing. They know we have to do it, and they will move out of the way. Like I've been saying, they will yield when we're competent. They will yield when we're competent. Always have and always will, because we created them. So we're going to move peacefully into this next phase. And I will say this, phase one, which kind of sort of began when the quote-unquote COVID-19 started. That was sort of the beginning of phase one for us of standing and governing. But again, we've always been the government. We've always been standing. But this iteration of us, or this reality of us, we did, I will say that we did very well in the first phase of testing and demonstrations and things like that. Okay, we did very, very, very well. If we hadn't done well, and when I say we, I mean all of us, anyone who's even said one time in the grocery store, I'm a Moor and I'm not a U.S. citizen, that's a demonstration that deserves honor. We did well. We did it, Moors, we did it, we did it. So now we're moving into phase two of this part of governing, okay? Again, we've always governed. We're just moving into higher and higher phases of governing, okay? But we have to be unified and organized, okay? And that's what we're working on in terms of, and not really working on it, we're just manifesting it because we're unified in the spirit. We just need to manifest that on this plane, okay? And I will say that we do have the support of the other governments. I've not heard to the contrary on the public record. And so if it's not on the public record otherwise, then we know we have their support as well, and we support them. And we gladly put that on the public record, gladly. So let's start moving in that direction. Be connecting in the next couple of days and weeks, whatever is convenient for you, with Moors in your territory. If you don't know any Moors in your territory, reach out now. Reach out now. And when I say reach out now, maybe go out on social media and say, are there any Moors in this territory or whatever territory you're in? Most of us know at least one or two other Moors in our territories, and many of us know many Moors in our territory who are who agree with us in terms of the Moorish National Republic federal government and the things that we do. I will say this, many of the other Moorish governments do use the documents and things that we put forth. They've already changed things into red and all lowercase letters, which I think is awesome. And that way their government is moving forth in a manner that is setting the stage, or the foundation rather, not the stage, but the foundation, on top of the foundations that we already have, but further setting the foundation for where we're all going as a nation, okay? And all of the governments together, we're a nation, we're one, we're not separate from one another. But we want to just start this process knowing that the process may not be perfect this time around, but we will get to see what needs to be improved as we move forth, okay? And that's really what we're doing, is just a pilot process here. It's the real process now. It's the real process, but we're doing it as a nation, as the government, where all of the territories are involved in terms of choosing who's going to be the governor, who's going to be the Turner General, and the Secretary for Sovereign State, the Sovereign Attorney General, the Sovereign Governor. And we can do this even with the incumbents doing what they do. They're doing things because all they're doing is clearing the pathway for us. That's it. Nothing else. They're just clearing the path so that the path is clear for us. So with that being said, are there any other questions, comments, or any other wisdom? Be sure that you're getting your liens and court actions on the public record, please, and start all documents with the court action language that you see on the screen here now, okay? Please start your documents with that, because everything is a court action. Everything that we say, everything that we do is the law. It's the law. Okay. Any questions, comments, anything of that nature? And again, if you don't know any other Moors who are aligned with the Moorish National Republic federal government, just feel free to, you know, be a part of this process and be the governor in your territory. Okay. Hopefully you can get at least 2 witnesses in your territory to be the witness that, yes, this is the will.
Nobody takes you seriously, Pauline.
In the government, okay. Are there any lawful questions, comments? Islam.
This is Justice Daoud from Swan Pomac, which is actually XREL, Westchester County, New York. Brother Chairman, Brother Abdullah has an excellent program that they're doing to help form your government. They do it every Wednesday, and that will help you form your government. I was using it to form our government here, and we've gotten a good start on what we have to do. You know, starting we have our constitution, we have our council, we've chose Bay, and we chose a Sharif to, you know, do that. So that's excellent what they have started. They took a break. Now they'll be going back on Wednesdays again. They use Zoom platform. So that's all I wanted to say.
Okay, so with what you're doing in your territory there,
yes.
First, congratulations. On that, on what you're doing, on the work that you're doing, because that is absolutely what needs to be done in all the territories. Because we have claimed and proclaimed all the land. And so it's time to govern all the land. And
what
that's
I also
why we're doing it this way, is so that we govern all the land. And know that, let me see. So, because I have heard some say that we don't have a government. We don't have a government. I've heard that vocalized by some who are the government. They just maybe don't know that they're the government. And I want to make it clear that we are governing. We are the government. All Moors are the government. This particular endeavor, this action, because it's actually a court action that we're doing, this court action is, again, like I said before, any governments that have done this already, we applaud you. We're not stepping on toes or anything like that, but this needs to be done in all the territories. So with what you've done, you said that you have a constitution and you've elected a consul. That is, we're in agreement with that. We are also, but for the Moorish National Republic federal government, let me just make this clear about the Constitution. The Constitution that our ancestors wrote is our Constitution, in red and all lowercase letters, as well as there's a blue version of it, and then the hybrids did a black version of it. Okay? That is the Constitution that we're going to be enforcing, because that's what even in our nation, we're going to be enforcing that. Because that's what our prophet pointed to. And that's what our ancestors wrote. So that's going to be our Constitution. So it's good that you all have a Constitution that you've crafted. That's honorable, very honorable. We honor that. For the jure Moorish National Republic federal government, we're pulling right up next to everything that our ancestors put in place and taking it. That's what we're doing, because that's where the resources come in at, is us following their mapping leads, okay? And that's why we're using that constitution, and we're going to use this process because we want to continue to move in this direction of honoring everything that they put in place. And I'm not saying that anyone else isn't honoring that. In fact, again, we honor what you all have done, and we appreciate it. And any other governments that have done the same thing, let us know so that we can make sure that we honor what you've done. We want to make sure we honor everything that's being done. There was another something that I wanted to ask or mention about that slipped my mind just that quickly. It must not be time to ask it. So, what territory are you in, by the way, Nobility? You said New York territory? Justice Dawood? Are you there?
Yes, he said New York.
Okay. So those who are, and I wanted to ask him, that's what I wanted to ask him. Justice Dawood, are you still on the line?
Yep.
Okay, great. So with what you're doing, what part of the territory of New York are you at?
That's XREL Westchester County. It's no longer called Westchester County. We put the affidavit on the public record since last year. We call our territory Swampomec.
Swampomec. Okay.
Swampomec. That's what it was called before.
Okay, so then Islam. Okay, so we honor what you've done. If there are any Moors in the New York territory who want to be a part of Westchester, Swampomec territory processes, then feel free to do that, okay? If you are in other parts of New York territory and you want to have your own process there where you gather with the Moors in your territory, feel free to do that. We need leaders, and leader is like the worst word ever. We don't even use that word because we're not really leading, we're serving. We need those offices in all of the territories. So if you're in, for example, I'm here at Federal Way territory, which is actually Seattle territory. But there are also Moors at Tacoma territory who may want to set up their own and have their own governor. Then their governor and the governor for this territory will speak often and meet at governors' meetings to determine what's going on and how to move forward and relay that information back to the Moors and work out ways to best implement the things that we're putting forth. Okay, I know that there are Moors and Moorish governments who put things on the public record. We're not reinventing the wheel. We're inviting all Moorish governments to be a part of what we're doing, and we want to be a part of what they're doing. Okay, so that is where the support for one another comes in at. We do need to go ahead and get the governor position, be thinking about how we're going to put that forth, okay? But here's the thing about what we're doing, and this is going to be probably where the wheat and the tares may split, is everything that we do as a government is done with Moorish sovereign delarium or sovereign credit. So that means the termination of all corporate contracts must be on the public record. We're not negating anything that was done in the past, because we do know that in the past, we needed to have constitutional money, and we have it now. And so I would encourage any of the other governments to get your money, constitutional money, out, so that we can move beyond that whole fiat curse. So those who are wanting to do this work with the de jure Moorish National Republic federal government, Moorish sovereign dollarium is what we're using to do everything that we do for sovereign credits on a termination of corporate contracts account. Okay, so all sovereign resource accounts, what makes them sovereign is that we have leaned the blackness off of them by court action and removed the capitalism cover, and everything is being done in red and all lowercase letters. If that is not done, then it needs to be done for those who want to participate and be a part of this movement. And when I say movement, I mean the movement of moving into the governor's positions and the secretary for state positions. Because see, the secretary for state positions for the Moors, when they say that property is abandoned and that the quote-unquote Secretary of State is over all abandoned property, the only reason they say it's abandoned is because there's fiat on everything, and fiat is not a thing. So our Secretary for State, for sovereign state, okay, for this de jure government, will be, we first have to have our contracts terminated, and everything that we put forth, we put it forth with Moorish sovereign dollarium. And then also, if there are any other governments, because again, that's the Constitution. Now, I've heard people say things about, you know, the Prophet Noble Drew Ali didn't use Moorish sovereign dollarium. He said he needed finance and he needed it bad because fiat was, they robbed him. Okay, period. Let's just call that what it is. The fiat and capitalism was a problem, and he was putting out a clarion call that stuff is a problem, because there's no way that you can go down to Cuba and be given all further affirmation that all land and all natural resources is yours, but you still need financing. You need it badly. And I'm not, again, we honor our prophets, so please don't put it in that I'm honoring him. In fact, we're manifesting everything that he wanted us to manifest in terms of the finance piece. So again, those who are willing to step up and be and govern, like we're actually going to be going into the buildings and governing the different structures, okay? We can't do that with corporate contracts and contracts of adhesion everywhere. We can't do that. We actually have to do that in a manner that is sovereign and de jure. And if you know that you're that you can't see your way past fiat, then move in that direction to see your way past fiat. And that's a suggestion, because it's lawful. I'm just pointing to the law. I'm not saying light said this and light said that. I'm talking about the Constitution and what it says. So I know that governments have done things in the past, and we honor that. We honor all of the governments. We got to get past the fiat piece. Moors have to be willing to get past it. We have to get past it, and we have the means to get past it now. But going into those places and dealing with subjects, the subjects are not going to hear anything that's being said if there's fiat flying around. Because to the subjects, that's corporate. They're blue, that's black. And they know they're not black either. They're blue. So when the prophet said that they were going to take on water, that's what that means. That they're in blue and they're subject to the Moors, but they're not going to be subject, as we can see, on the if fiat is flying everywhere. Because that's what we told them to do. So let's keep that in mind when we're talking about, and again, we know we're in transition, but we at least have to be moving in that direction, okay? We have to be moving in that direction. And the ancestors will make sure that, you know, that we keep moving in that direction. They will make sure within each one of us, because they are within each one of us, okay? But even when we gave those commands to the capital here, to the secretaries for sovereign state office here, because we're the secretaries for state, all of us. When we gave those commands to them and they accepted the dollarium, that means that's what we're using and not fiat to govern with. Because if we tried to govern with fiat, they would just tax it and take it, and then we'd be back where we started. And we're not going back there. So that is the way that we're moving forth. So those who want to be governing in a de jure manner, and that's really what I wanted to say about that, is those who want to govern in a de jure manner and not have fiat be a barrier, this is for you. This is for you. If you want to still keep using fiat and you can't see past it, then that's you're sovereign and you can do that. But that's not for this process. For this process and for the things that the de jure Moorish National Republic federal government is moving forth with, it is Moorish sovereign dollarium and constitutional lawful money. Gold coin, silver, land, natural resources, those are our exchange mechanisms and conveyances and conveyance methods, not fiat at all, ever. Okay. So with that being said, you know, if your government has done things and you are interested in moving forward without fiat, then we invite you to come and partner with us on this. Where more sovereign dollarium and real money and real government is concerned, because we can't really say we're a government if we're using their stuff, corporate, private, commercial paper, in the things that we govern. Okay. So that's gonna, you know, that's gonna probably change the mind about those who were considering being a part of it. And then again, those who really want to get past that fiat piece, this is for you. Because fiat has bound us in the past, and we are not going to consent to that any longer as a government. In order for governments to be different from the United States Corporation Company, you cannot use their paper to do your governing. And that just makes sense. It just makes sense. So with that being said, Justice Dawood, let's you and I talk after the meeting, or whenever you have some time in the next 2 or 3 days. Let's talk regarding what you all have done there. Because we need to ensure that as we move forward with all the demonstrations that have been so brilliantly done and thought out and studied and right energy and all of that, we want to keep the energy going in that manner where the money is concerned, because that's been seemingly the sticking point. Okay, so let's discuss. Let's look for ways that we can make it happen instead of looking at ways that it might not happen. Let's look for ways that because it can happen. It's going to happen.
This is going to happen. This is divine. It has nothing to do with us. This is coming from down, up to down.
Yes. Yes.
Either we want it or not, it's going to happen.
Yes. 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 And more yes. And the other governments that we spoke with, if you want to partner with us on this, please do so. We can send you Dellarium. We've already started sending Dellarium out to the government. I do want to mention another Moorish government that that we need to be paying attention to, because they're putting out some great information, is AMPAC government at Colorado Territory. I want to send a shout out to them. They are the Allodium Moorish Pradium anti-Colorado government. They are on YouTube. They have they had an inauguration, which is actually where we're going earthwide right now. They had an inauguration of their government in their territory on March the 21st of this year. Okay, and it was a beautiful ceremony. Please go look at that on YouTube. Again, it is AMPAC government, which stands for Allodium Moorish Pradium, and Pradium is Latin. It's Pradium, I believe, or Praeddium. Yes, Allodium Moorish Pradium anti-Colorado government. They have a great format there also, and I believe they got their format from what I'm understanding. They got their format from our teachers at on the East. So they have a beautiful format, and they're putting out some very good, very well done information. So take a moment to please go and pay attention to what they're saying and listen to them in terms of the study that they're doing there. Again, this is what the Uniting of Asia is that we're speaking in support of one another, okay? Speaking in support of one another, that's what we do. That's what we all do. And we are willing to partner with any other governments where this lawful money is concerned, because we have to get it out there. It's going out at a very rapid pace right now, and Moors that we haven't even had direct contact with are using it as well. Just one moment. Hold 1 second. Okay, my apologies. So yes, let's get that going, and then over the next week we will start coming together by phone. Any Moors who are interested in governing using lawful money, and lawful money can be gold and silver too, or any other lawful money. And you've done liens and court actions, can you please give me a text and then a call? And if you text me and say, I'm willing to govern in this territory, I'll call you, okay? with that being said, are there any other questions, comments, any other governments that are on the call that want to partner with us and do this? Okay. We'll be talking with other governments. We are in touch with other governments as well. We'll be talking with them as we go along also in getting the Moorish Sovereign Diallarium out even further. And thank you to the hundreds of Moors who have texted us and sent emails requesting Moorish Sovereign Diallarium. We are getting through them as quickly as possible. Thank you so much for support of that which is lawful. We must have lawful money on the land, and now we have it. So, with
Islam,
that being
Empress?
said, yes, Islam.
Did you happen to put those links in you were talking about at the beginning? They've been so much scatter on the chat there. I didn't see them. Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Here, I thank you for that. I forgot to put them, and let me do that right now.
Islam.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad that we don't have to do this all by ourselves, because we will forget things sometimes and stuff. But we have each other. I'm so glad. And then here is that's the link to the site that we discussed, and then here's the link to the Prophet's hadith that we quoted, and then everything else was Wikipedia things that we saw. Take a look at all of that. And with that being said, are there any other questions, comments, etc.? Islam. Peace and grand rising to the... Yes, Islam?
Islam, Judge Light.
Was there... Yes.
Now, when you say, have we did any liens, are you talking about actually lien certain corporations or what have you totally on our own and did the court action, or does it count when we lien the documents that you gave us to lien, you told us to lien? Like lien the straw
Yes.
man?
Okay. The lien on the straw is sufficient, because that is also another way to terminate corporate contracts. And in order for to be in these positions, we can't have any corporate contracts.
Okay. Okay.
So yes, that does count. So text me or call me, and let's talk about you governing in your territory. Okay. Islam. Any other questions, comments, etc.? And the territories can have more than one. We're not going by the 50 state political boundaries. We're not going by those for this demonstration.
Yes.
So if there are other Moors in other parts of the same territory, you can also be the governor of your territory there. Okay? And you won't bump heads, because you're going to be coming together we're all going to be coming together at governing conferences and meetings so that we can discuss how to do this. Okay? How to move forward, rather. We know how to do it. We just need to go ahead and do it. That's all. Because we've been talking about this for about 100 and some years. So let's do it.
Thank you.
Islam, yes. Yes. So, and if you haven't done a lien or a court action, just do one over the next couple of days. Suggested that you do one over the next couple of days, and then step up to govern, to be a governor in your territory. Islam, 334-294-9828. That is my number. Please text and call so that we can start moving. And I'll say this: if you're already doing liens and court actions, you're already governing. It'll just be a pre-title that gives you access a certain way. Okay. To all things allodial, to include everything that belongs to us. And we all have it, but we have to competently put that forth. And that's what we're doing now, is putting it forth. Islam.
With that being said, peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, now to the fine ears.
Peace, grand rising.
Thank you, Empress.
Right.
Grand rising to the board.
Much love, much love.
Grand rising.
Grand rising. Grand rising. Bye.
Grand rising.
Grand rising, peace and love.
Wow.